Greetings, send you all from One Positive Vibrations. This is Body-Culinary. And today, before I head off to the market, just wanted to come in and have a chat around doing damage, sometimes permanent and irreversible damage to our hair, our skin, our bodies, and our credit. Perhaps this can be a valuable conversation for a younger flower who may be considering doing some alteration, right? And this is not to make ourselves, this is not to make ourselves bad or wrong. Though sometimes we may be uh, feeling anxious or in a state, and we may not be thinking long term on the full spectrum. We may not be thinking of the long term consequences of a choice we're about to make in altering our bodies that can not only potentially leave us with potential damage, we could have some regret, and we may be about to embark on some decisions that could perhaps be irreversible and could have some consequences that we just did not bank on, that we didn't even think about. So that's what we're going to chat about today, and I'm going to head off to the market. So if you're interested in this conversation, stay tuned. My name is Body-Culinary, or that's the name of the channel, Kwasapeacefull Eating. It's I'm known also on Facebook. You can find me on all social media, Body-Culinary on TikTok, Instagram, a little bit of Facebook. So on this channel, I like to share some of my journey of radical self-acceptance and what that looks like for me. I don't have the only opinion. I'm just sharing my experience. Perhaps that could help somebody, get some insight or a sounding board before you make some kind of decisions. And also, with the benefit of YouTube, you can teach inside each other's kitchens and bathrooms, right? We can share our little information and make a positive use of it. So on this channel, I share some of my journey of radical self-acceptance, and what that looks like for me is being really creative with what I have been divinely assigned. It's really about embracing what I have and not stressing myself out. I really, really prioritize feeling comfortable in my own hair and skin. I am not anti-makeup, though I look at what my priority is for me. I don't think I'm better because my hair is not altered chemically. I had a jerry curl and a gold tooth. Growing up, I had a perm, and I remember at some point I begged for that perm. They gave me scalp burns and scabs. I remember my hair was all broken off in the back. Now, was I a rotten person? Was I better or less than anyone because I put a perm in my hair when I was younger? That's ridiculous. Would I not appreciate Maxine Waters because she has a perm? That's ridiculous. So, although it's ridiculous, I am very well aware due to social conditioning to our conditioning and how we are introduced in our peer groups and women and men, how we can be very exclusive and cliquish. These are habits we pick up mimicking the people around us as I've grown and matured over the ages with more of my own autonomy, thinking for myself. More and more because it just doesn't make sense to me to condemn somebody for where they are on their journey, because I'm on the journey as well. I think it can be quite distracting, and I also, I'm a person that really is fascinated by self-sabotage as well as self-actualization, right? Getting the best use out of my human suit. So I can more so discern and articulate that sometimes we may be bothered or triggered by what somebody else is doing. There's usually something going on there connected to how we may be feeling subconsciously about ourselves that we're not aware of. That's just one. So, we're going to talk about that. Also on this channel, I like to encourage 3 leverage lifestyle practices. At least that's how I call it. I like to make up my own lingo and be, as much as I can, I strive to be very intentional with my language because we are so easily triggered and conditioned, right? And if we're going to be triggered and conditioned, you might as well trigger yourself to the results that you desire for yourself. So I share 3 leverage lifestyle practices or encourage them. I don't tell grown folks what to do. Those are peaceful consumption, food that loves you back. Call yourself whatever label you'd like to. You're likely trading numerous labels along your journey. I think more so than the label, what's more important, because labels, we can ego trip off the label, off of the label, and we can become very divisive. But again, I think it's somehow it's come through the back door. We're projecting insecurities or maybe triggering each other, knowingly or unknowingly. More so than a label, it's the behavior. It's the behavior and the results that I know I'm looking for. So, do I care what my label is? If I felt something else is better for me, that's what I would do, right? So, the label's not the most important thing. We don't need one more thing to divide us. So, peaceful consumption, food that demonstrates that it loves you back. Movement therapy, right? A daily personal movement practice. Why? Because it gives you back so much more than I could ever express. You get back so much more for your time, your attention, your discomfort, safe discomfort. You get back so much more. So much of what we're chasing can be really alleviated with these 3 lifestyle practices. And number 3 is garden therapy. Again, so much more than I could ever tell you in a short video. A lot of what we're chasing with, how can I put it? Say from auntie, because I'm officially auntie. I'm auntie. We chasing retail, tail and retail. We spend a lot of our teens and 20s and sometimes our 30s chasing tail and attractive packages and retail. And then perhaps if you slow down, if you perhaps damaged yourself enough and have experienced enough consequences, depleted your credit, maybe exposed your reproductive organs to some things that you had not anticipated, you learn, Hopefully flowers out so you can learn a little quicker. And I always contemplate, I'm always fascinated on why do we put ourselves in harm's way? What is that with humans about species where we knowingly put ourselves in harm's way? This might even be an advanced concept. So I've been thinking about this from the time I was a child. It's just gotten more distinct, more detailed. I'm able to articulate it a lot more. So these are things I contemplate. So lifestyle practices, they're leverage. They give you so much back, more back for your investment. Garden, movement practice, peaceful consumption. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're interested in that kind of content, feel free to comment respectfully, subscribe to the channel. This is a thumbs up. So maybe perhaps somebody else can join this conversation. Oh, so my quickie hairstyle. Well, I'm not doing much of nothing. So in case you haven't noticed, I'm not one for flicking. I'm just not doing all that. I did already. I'm not. Because all that stuff hurts. I have very, very fine hair. I'm lucky if I have 30 locks, and they're all flat. And I'm rocking with that because it's stress-free. So I have a little side bun. I call them sometimes accidental hairstyles because I might have one thing in mind. I might have seen something that inspires me, so my hair never comes out looking like what I've seen because this is not that. It's not that density. It's not that color. I'm not putting any products in it because I don't want it. I don't want the product. I like the lightness. I like the carefreeness. And this is going to bring me to something I wanted to chat about. I don't want to lose my whole train of thought. So as I was doing some research this morning, a video came up on my feed, and it was this woman who had to cut her sister lock off. And she was sharing her journey. Actually, I saw it through someone else posted it on a blog on their website. And so I thought, they said it was a horror story with a lock that she had to cut them off. And just call me simple, just my perspective. Doesn't make it right. But I was just thinking, just honestly, like, haven't we learned our lesson? Now, let me tell you, I remember trying to color my hair because I remember that was the style when I was coming up. Everybody had this reddish brown hair. I remember my mother's Afro puff. Stuff goes all the way around the style, circle back around again. I remember my mother with her Afro puff. I remember little Afro puff curly hair pieces that she had. I remember my mother's Afro. I remember my mother putting my hair pieces in plaits. And then I remember my mother having me wear an Afro to school, which I was so upset because I was scared they were going to tease me and call me Jackson 5. It's so silly, but serious, right? So the Jackson 5 cartoons, that was one of the most awesome cartoons ever. I grew up on really good cartoons. So in any event, I remember all of that. I also remember as a teenager seeing a picture of my auntie Joanne, her yearbook, and her beehive, which I was just enamored with this beehive style, and I wanted to replicate that style. So my hair doesn't look like that because they're all flat. It's not dense. The locks that started, now they used to be fluffy double strand twists. Why double strand twists? Because double strand twists are a style that I could maintain, and I mastered for myself in flat twists. I was not a great cornrower. Also, the cornrows, any kind of pulling on tension on my scalp, it hurts, it's painful. I'll get those, I call them too tight bumps, easy. And just like, nobody has time for pain, headaches, when I do my head wraps and the delays, you know, the African delays. When I was, let's say, in my early 20s, I had so much African fabric, like stacked up to the ceiling. And I love delays. But when I would wrap them too tight, I would get the head wrap headache. That's what I called it. Or when I would put the elastic band to do the Afro puff, I can feel it pulling. So now I'm very clear that is damaging. Too tight, I'm just asking for alopecia. Alopecia, come on over. So I can't take it. So my hair is very, very fine. I found more so it's normalized without the tension in the styles that are pulling it. So I'm not slicking it. Back in the days with double strand twists, I used to use black styling gel with shea butter. It looked nice. I used to twist out. I used to rock the twist out. But it's just too much product. And then to go to the swimming pool and your black gel is in the swimming pool, it's too cumbersome. I just find it's too much plastic going into the environment. I'm just not drawn to it. So, you know, I appreciate the well-meaning folks that, you know, are sharing ideas for dry hair, yet my hair is dry, though it is not brittle. It is spongy, it is soft, it is cotton. I did put a little hair net on it today. My hair is, I think today you can see it's a brown color. I'm not dyeing it. I got a little bit of salt and pepper. It is what it is. I don't want to be preoccupied. So anyway, back to the sister. She called her sister LOCS, and she said she got bored. Now she said she got bored with her hair. Now I remember saying at different times I got bored, right, with my hair. And if I really look back, I was taking my cue really from the women, young women, older around me, right? And you get bored, you go into something, you change your hair. Now I don't want to make this bad or wrong, but I questioned the internal dialogue and the automatic pilot, and we follow each other. So just get bored, you know, even some of my friends who I consider very fashion forward, the conversation was always, if I'm bored, you know, you do something, spruce yourself up. And usually I found, and I have observed, this is not limited to chocolate women, but many women, we change our hair color, you know, traditionally throughout the diaspora. You know, we do flowers, we do paint, we do dyes from mud, we do markings. Some of us, you know, some groups in the diaspora do permanent markings to identify. We do stuff, you know, for our bodies. Yet, I would have to say, looking back, I was mimicking, right? I remember the jazzing and other stuff. I've been eating and taking care of myself well for years. So I remember looking at the chemicals. I never really always sat right with chemicals. I think because also I've worked in a holistic health center, and most of the complaints coming in were tumors and fibroids and cysts. And I remember distinctly my mentor really letting me know at a younger age, and he's doing some research, that a lot of that is attributed and connected with the chemicals that we're ingesting through the skin, which is the largest organ. You know, people put medicated patches for the heart, for cigarettes, all kinds of different medicines go through the skin. So if medicine and things absorbed through the skin can be that powerful, right, to alter the way we feel and our body chemistry, what does that say for the things that we're putting on the head next to the brain? And actually the warnings on the labels in the packages, it says do not apply certain things, plenty of these things, if you're pregnant. So that tells us something, right? I do know at the simplest level, the brain is right here. This is the control center. Before the skin, before the muscles, this is the brain. So I've heard different types of varying thoughts in different camps, and I have a tendency to always observe and study folks that have a different worldview than me, that have a different experience. I just have a habit of looking at both sides of the spectrum, so I can stay well informed. I'm okay with experimenting on myself. Yeah, I've done enough experimenting to know that certain things are damaging. So I wonder, why do we risk certain things? Or let me put it this way: a certain thing is worth the risk, right? For example, as a mother, there are certain things that I'm not willing to risk with my child, right? With my offspring. There's certain things I wouldn't take a risk with in terms of putting my child or myself in harm's way because of the responsibility, right? So if something happens to me, that's going to affect my offspring, right? So there's certain things I'm just not willing to take a risk with. Yet, how is it as human beings, right? And I have to say, if you really think about it, even with I'm kind of ignorant, 14, 16, in this information age, it's something I think about. Can we not say that we are aware that if you engage intimately, you can get pregnant? Now, you may not be prone to manipulation or understand narcissism, manipulation. You may be distracted due to, or not distracted, making poor, ill-informed decisions due to trauma or wanting love. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we are aware the average teenager that or young adult that you can have offspring or children are really humans if you engage. So why is it that we're willing to risk? And the reason I ask this question is because I also contemplate what would have to shift in our thinking and reasoning process in order for us not to put certain magnanimous things like putting some humans out here who we are so prepared to provide for, not only monetarily, not only to provide around the clock safety, but also what these little humans, girls, and also boys that will become grown adult males and they will have so much responsibility on them if we are not in a position to be able to secure them emotionally and mentally, right? Knowing if they are men, they will likely need input from other men. So if we're ill prepared to do that, see, that may be too mature a thinking process for a young adult, but is it? It isn't, right? And do we just high five each other as adults, as women and as men? Oh, you're going to be all right. Oh, you got God, you got the Lord. You know, is it just fantasy thinking? Meanwhile, the small human will have to deal with the consequences of those who are ill prepared to be able to keep them safe. You know, these are things, the lack of safety, the lack of emotional, mental stability, in addition to resources. I would even say right now, the emotional and mental stability or instability is really glaring and showing its face, that either parents were ill prepared or not willing to be parents, or really truly didn't want to be parents. Not based on what we say, but based on the results, right? Because most of these human beings that are wreaking havoc and chaos on the planet, digging into their history, you can usually see something was missing. Usually we can make excuses. I think women more so than men, or maybe for different reasons, but several reasons, we have a tendency to minimize. Something is minimized there. And I think that I would have to say that in terms of accountability and responsibility, as much as we want the government and men folks to be responsible, even if we were ignorant, we are still responsible. And even if we are well-intentioned or ignorant or young, the small human will have to pay for the cost of us being ill-informed. How does this relate to here? What's our thinking and reasoning process? Because usually, if our thinking and reasoning process is one where we're willing to take certain risks, then that is a mindset. So this is a shortcut. Hack, I think, is a term that people use a lot. So there's certain things at this point I'm not willing to do because I know that it will damage my already delicate, fragile hair, the type of hair and hair texture I have. Now, I might be willing to take a risk. I could say I'm willing to take a risk, though many folks feel depressed or down or unattractive when they have no hair, zero hair, right? So we can see this by the wig industry, and some of it is to show and playing and being expressive. Yet I have witnessed and listened to countless women that are very uncomfortable. Not to make it right or wrong, maybe they're having certain medical treatments or maybe stress is making their hair fall out, right? So then we don't get injections. I know folks have gotten injections in different, parts of their head to stimulate hair growth. So if we really, in our quiet moments, if we sit back and we're honest, many of us are very uncomfortable with sitting in our own hair and skin. How do we get to this point? Is the narrative that strong? We can hear women say, like, I don't feel beautiful, which is one of the reasons why, for myself, I have chosen for many years to focus on and prioritize health and confidence over a made-up, ever-moving goalpost of beauty that someone else has created, that narrative and the standard. I'm very clear. Many folks don't find this palatable, especially, for then it should be shorter, right? So then I don't slip it down. Why don't you work your edges? No. So I've chosen health and confidence. So that's the most important thing for me, rather than pleasing strangers, many of them lacking character or dangerous and not meaning any good, or maybe perhaps dissatisfied with their own lives and anonymously commenting on this internet, which really is a monetized platform. So the longer you spend on here, all of the ways that we click, and what we look at is monetized, so things are advertised for. So anyway, I just can't see myself taking certain risks. If my hair was hanging on by a hairstring, I likely would cut it off. I feel very comfortable in my skin with low hair. I really like that style. Whatever the shape of my head is, the shape of my head. I would be comfortable. I would just cut it bald. I'm not going to hold on to hair as a concept. If my hairline is back here, I'm not willing to do that, to hold on to a concept of something that's not working for me. Similarly, people have the right to do the same thing with their food. Why hold on to a concept if you're wasting away and you're dying? Doing the self-experimentation to find out what works for you, that's your personal responsibility. So it's another reason why it just doesn't make sense to judge or to beat up on ourselves for where we are in our journey, and to beat up on other people, right? If they're vegan, raw food, tomorrow they're this or that. In one sense, like, who cares? What does it really have to do with our personal journey? We take so much, on other people. So anyway, back to this. I think if I was to die this, which I'm not going to die, because I really have made a practice intuitively of sitting with myself. This is what it is. I practice looking at it. It's how it behaves, and it's flat, and how it feels. Like, I've heard some people talk about a personal relationship with God. What about a personal relationship with your own temple that has been divinely assigned and gifted to us, right? We won't always have a human suit. We just won't. It's kind of on loan, and at some point, it's going where our essence will leave it, and it will disintegrate back into, compost. That's coming, all right? And none of us really know when it's coming. So I just can't see myself doing that. And at one point, like, there's enough information. If we see, I would say the majority of what I've seen on YouTube damaging the locks was from too tight hairstyles, too much coloring, or putting one chemical process right after the other, over styling. And if you think about it, that's a lot of hours and time, which at this point, I'm just not willing to give up. I like to capture a lot of my time, which is going by so fast. We're already in the third month of March. It feels like 1 week. So this is the fastest that I have ever experienced time. It feels so set up to the extreme. So being that time is tight, the whole economy and how we work has really shifted. A lot of our working hours are spent, a lot of our waking hours are spent working. So spending a whole lot of time is just not it for me. I like my hair. I like to luxuriate. I like style and fashion. Yet some things I'm very clear are not a priority. So I like to be comfortable. I do like this. This is my little outfit. The cute little jumper. So I prioritize being healthy, and I'd rather not buy bigger clothing sizes. So it is worth it to me to have a daily movement practice, how it makes me feel, what it does for my esteem. I really feel like folks are missing out, like, to the extreme, missing out And again, I'm not here to shame folks or tell folks what to do, right? Because we've all done different things to ourselves. Yeah, I do know I have young flowers reach out to me, and also to give birth to sons and daughters. So, yeah, I have tremendous care and affection for men folks too. I'm not a man. Though, I speak to men. I've had men ask me questions about their sons. And I think we offer different life experience. Sometimes there might be young men that need to ask the question of a seasoned woman or a mother, right? I think it's amazing sometimes. Well, some people don't have parents or have present parents to ask questions. And sometimes it's how folks are exploited, right? Because it's natural to seek out a parenting energy, not to take all your work or your responsibility for you. Yet, not having someone that's mature, that's not exploiting you, is very dangerous, especially in this current time. There's so much hope and misabuse by political organizations and houses of worship today. Many of us are not willing to think for ourselves, or in thinking for ourselves, new cults and new followings are created. We hear the term, seek your own counsel, yet it doesn't appear many of us are comfortable with getting quiet to hear our own counsel, or that we have the capacity to discern what people call voices. I would call intelligence. The communication from our own CPU, our central processing unit, the parts of us that are triggered and not logical and seek to protect us, or avoiding pain through sometimes seeking pleasure and being overstimulated and lacking discipline, which gets us in a lot of trouble. In contrast to patience, being able to sit with ourselves, which brings us back to that point of being bored, right? I question it. Sometimes we're bored and we do all this stuff to ourselves on the outside, yet we get so fixated, it becomes a habit, I think, sometimes to keep changing on the outside. And I think my concern is the things that we do permanent alterations to ourselves without thinking of the physical ramifications, right? Especially with the conflict of interest, which is for profit. And to do all these alterations only to get to the other side and still not be satisfied. Do we ever question, what is the thing that's unsettling? When we say we're bored, right? At a young age, I think there's no reason to be bored. There's so much to do. Where is the dissatisfaction with ourselves coming from? Do we ever sit with ourselves long enough to reverse engineer and to observe our internal dialogue and the feelings and the emotions that go without our internal dialogue, right? To be self-reflective. Without being self-reflective and questioning our autopilot internal dialogue, we often find ourselves doing damage to ourselves, or placing ourselves in compromising situations, or situations where we are likely to damage our credit, damage our bodies, ingest some things that are damaging or addictive, that age us, or place our reproductive organs in the path of those who themselves are dissatisfied, distracted, looking for stimulation, though folks that are not careful and careful with their bodies, or very reckless with our body's temple. So we share our mental state, with folks. That's why I'm careful when folks are sharing. Share your blood, share your alcohol, share the gossip, sharing your state. As humans, we share. People say sharing is caring, but is it really? Is it really? So it's just something to marinate on. This being bored with ourselves. What is it? I invite you, maybe perhaps it's something to journal about, right? To reverse engineer, because we're definitely in the time today. The current climate is not one, and the pace that we're moving and living at is not one that lends itself to self-reflection. We are on autopilot a lot of the time. That is how it is very easy for us to overspend, which creates stress, or to allow toxic relating, or to stay relating to folks where we're triggering them, or we're allowing mistreatment. That's not very self-reflective. That's coming from somewhere. No one does something without a reason. And we usually rely on religious personalities, political personalities, online gurus only for insight, right? So we don't stretch our own muscles of discernment, right, or self-reflection. It doesn't appear that we can get quiet, or our only idea of getting quiet is going to an ashram, which is an ashram meditation center. It seems like we don't really access doing that for ourselves, or maybe we don't really know. That's like such uncharted territory. We feel unsure about ourselves, but about something as simple as self-reflection and seeking inner guidance and internal common sense, right? We are all born, all of us, with a divine, right? Not just worldly, I'm not talking about religion, with a divine, on-board, innate intelligence. There's intelligence inhabiting this body, right? There's intelligence. Little babies, you put them in the bush next to some ripe fruit and a piece of flesh or rotting flesh or something decomposing or alive. They're going to reach for the right fruit. So there's intelligence, right? To avoid things that seem scary or loud or unsettling. We have a divine innate intelligence that's on board. So I found simplifying things, taking away distractions. I still love enjoying life. Though being very simple with my hair so it's manageable, that's off the table. Eating whole, fresh, living food, take the lot off the table. I don't have to worry about food. It's a simple lifestyle that's enjoyable. It allows more. It allows me to leverage my attention, so I can notice my internal dialogue, right? And so that I can get access to more time internally from the inside instead of scrambling. Scrambling from activities, chasing tail and retail, and a lot of autopilot behavior. So just questioning. Do you have the type of hair that is easily damaged? Is it worth it to damage the hair to potentially risk? And I tell folks what to do because I like to be creative and expressive. But is it worth the risk of losing your natural eyebrows, losing your eyelashes? For those that use waterproof mascara, have you ever noticed that your lashes come out when you're taking off the mascara? Now there is some natural shedding. Is it worth it? Is it worth the damage that we do to ourselves? Young folks, I can't even just say younger folks. Any folks out there, is it worth it? Is anybody that fine to place your reproductive organs in harm's way? Not only physically, right? And there's a myriad of disease, a myriad. I find it astounding that there's no hip hop, rap, pop records about disease. I so wish somebody would do just a whole bunch of hip hop records and some something beats to disease. When we pay attention, will we get it? So I'm just fascinated by self-sabotage and equally self-actualization. Do you have any experience using shea butter on your face and body? Yes, I use shea butter often. That's what I do on my eyebrows. I remember I used to really love threading my eyebrows, and I used to be frequently with Indian. Some folks are like, are you Indian in another life? I don't know. But every now and then I would get someone that would tweeze them or thread them too thin. I found the shape I like better than tweezing. Somehow looks more natural and more even. So I would always get somebody every now and then that would just go too thin, and I was like, oh. And so my eyebrows don't fully go back here. So that's kind of seems like damage, right? Too tight braids once here, my hair doesn't fully grow back here. The time scabs, traumatized, and that spoke for itself. I was doing some research the other day on really, really old videos of beauty in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, even in the 30s. And I found an English, I could call it a documentary, but a little presentation on a woman, a Black woman in the UK. And the narrator, he was English, kind of like, a vanilla gentleman. And he was commenting on this woman had a hair care salon in the UK. I think this must have been in the 50s, and how he spoke about African women and their hair and the kinks. I just thought it was so interesting. I may see if I can find it so I can share it. But it's interesting in this Caucasian gentleman, English gentleman, comment on, you know, this black woman's hair care salon and how we take care of our hair. And she had these, when the camera went to the hot, and this was in black and white, on the hot combs, I was like, immediately I had flashbacks of that hot comb singeing my ears. Like, I can't. Now, there's more technology now, and I hear different types of presses and irons and stuff like that. But the trauma, that was traumatic. That was traumatic. And I think sometimes culturally we are so disconnected from our trauma. Perhaps that is part of what doesn't allow us to access resolving and putting trauma in perspective. And I don't think folks have bad intentions. So I'm very clear. You could not pay me to re-traumatize myself with a hot comb, chemical relaxers, that was so much years of time and money, but also it didn't leave me confident. That didn't leave, this is just my experience, having to dramatically alter myself to look like who, to look like, and then it didn't look right. Just a whole bunch of Jerry curl juice dripping on my neck. You know, the aesthetic, somebody else created that aesthetic. I remember, you know, I don't know if you know the group Ready for the World and Prince, all of them back then. Was that have a Jerry curl? I don't know if he had a Jerry curl. But anyway, there was a look, right, with the shoulder pads. And we had greasy collars. And you needed at least 3 products, if not 4. For these hairs, that's too much stress. And it's enriching other folks' pocketbooks. I'm not doing all of that. I'm just not. I just don't think I should have to, when it comes to health and esteem, I should not have to turn myself inside out. I just shouldn't. For who? For what? For strangers on the internet? Or predators? I don't think so. So if I had to do it all over again, no. I would never. I'm just thinking about all these, I just imagine with what I know now, all the pleasurable experiences I could have had. I could have grown my hair down past my butt several times and cut it off and had fun if I knew then what I know now. But often it's not modeled. So we mimic and we copy and we go with the social climate of what is attractive. And I remember coming up here and I remember I thought this to myself, you know, listening to the conversation, that men don't choose women with natural hair or their kinky hair. And so again, the same thing for yourself and questioning the common narrative. I would have to say at this point, I used to think that was totally true. Now I don't totally buy that. I have never, ever, and I've traveled a bit, I've never been to a country, whether my hair was short, whatever style, double strand twist, I've never, Korea, Saudi Arabia, had to have my hair covered. I've never been to a country, Italy, where my hair, now granted, there may be some people that for an aesthetic, right, especially in a corporate setting, may not consider this polished or they want it slick, but it's always just in my natural state is deemed very attractive, even exotic. It's fetishized. I would have to say this unique DNA marker. It's a unique DNA stamp. It's like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Now we have the right to do whatever we want with our hair and express ourselves along our journey. Yeah, I can admit that a lot of it was mimicking. And I feel so much more comfortable in my skin. I don't have to turn myself inside and out. I can get a call to go to a waterfall and go jump in the water immediately. And it's mine. Nobody else has it, you know, in terms of outside of the group. Everyone has their own mark, you know, and I can appreciate the attractive qualities and different types of packages, whether the skin is more yellow, whether it's straight. You know, I know some Irish folks too. They look attractive in their skin. They've got pale skin and rosy cheeks. I don't have that. If I want to put some beet juice or a little shade lip gloss or like that, but we don't blush, most of us, and we get a little more chocolatey. We don't. My hair and skin doesn't do that, and I'm okay with it. I can appreciate others, but I really like to appreciate what I have. So many of us, I don't think, have really followed the full rabbit hole, right, of What's going to happen? What will it look like? I don't know what my hair's going to look like if I let it join. I'm thinking about letting more join, especially if they're all flat and it's fine. Ooh, you're going too far, what's that going to look like? I've always been pleasantly surprised. So I'm not attached to the length. It's to the length. I like the length. So periodically I'll trim it off where I see the full double strand twists are so compact now. They're like teeny, teeny, tiny. They'll break off. Sometimes I just get a natural haircut. So it's really a journey. And as I said before, I've had to retrain my eyes, which has been a process over the years of really embracing what it is that I have. And I found it really helps to cultivate a solid foundation of esteem. Again, I can appreciate Angela Bassett, a Halle Berry, Pixie. When it's attractive, it's attractive. So for myself, mentally and emotionally, and also for my esteem and my psyche, which I'm very protective of, because that was something I intentionally chose. I intentionally chose to go down a rabbit hole of radical self-acceptance and affair over years, and not one regret. It's the best. It's designed just divinely, naturally designed just for me. It's so stress-free, so creative. So I don't see the styles I'm looking for because they just come up on their own. That's what I like to say. When you had acne, did this skin clear up with diet as far as any indentations, acne scar that may have been due to the chin? Yep. Lifestyle. I don't use any product. Zilch. Zero. I put food on my face. First, primarily, I put the food, whole fresh living foods. 100% is what works for me. 100%. So I'm somebody that did a whole bunch of natural products. Before that, at one point I got desperate. I did proactive, specific acid, benzoyl peroxide, hydrouronic acid. It was just too much. It's mentally stressful. It's like clutter. It's just like being on a home stroll. Get out there and get my money from the company. Get out on that street and get my money. And then still I got to put makeup. One product leads to another product, and just in hell, I can't breathe. I felt like I was in prison. So 100% living food is what did it for me. 100% consistently over time. It was very uncomfortable to allow my skin to be seen, all the acne and the whiteheads, and I felt uncomfortable because of that fear of judgment, right? I've spoken on this channel about the 6 basic human fears that level the playing field for us all. Fear of, fear of loss of love and never finding love, fear of poverty, fear of illness, fear of death, fear of old age, and fear of criticism. All 6. Those are primal human fears. And so a lot of times when folks, and now we have information about gaslighting, a lot of times, I think when folks are coming to us, sometimes even with compliments or coming to sell things to us, I'm very keen to the undertone of what's implied is that I won't be fulfilled, I won't be chosen, I'll get old, playing for all these different fears if I don't have this particular product, if I don't make my reproductive organs available to this person, if I say no, right? I'm very keen to the gaslighting. It's too much. And I can tell you as a chocolate woman that the stress causes implosion. That's what I'm going to call it. It causes implosion. Your subconscious mind doesn't forget anything. All of those years and years and years of perhaps mishandling, microaggressions, maybe perhaps parents that weren't present. It's a lot. And guess what? All of that disappointment, mishandling, fear, it expresses itself. It expresses itself in our body in terms of tumors, growth. Things not handled or acknowledged express themselves. It can be expressed in acne. And some people may have acne, and some people it may be expressed as unhelpful adipose tissue, unhelpful overweight. I'm not just talking about it being curvy. So unhelpful overweight or excess adipose tissue, which does contribute to inflammation, right? Inflammation. And in this age of body positivity, and I totally get it, and many women are speaking out about being teased in comedy and by family members and being shamed. Who wants to be on? Who wants diabetes? Who wants to take needles? Who wants to have acne? Nobody. We all, I would say, we're all at our most attractive when we are healthy, right? Emotionally, mentally. We are all at our most attractive when we are healthy, and also when we're comfortable in our hair and skin. So I just kind of reverse engineer things in a way that works for me, where I can feel comfortable and I don't feel inclined to walk around in uncomfortable clothing or shoes to impress people. And that's attractive first to me first. And it feels really good to have gotten to this place. So again, that was something that was intentionally cultivated over the years. So I've retrained my eyes. So the large pores, eating excess sugar, eating, I would say, I like to refer to it as substances masquerading as nutrition or substances masquerading as food. There are a lot of things that we eat, so I wouldn't consider them food anymore. And I was a pretty eat everything individual. I'm trained as a chef classically, so even before that, I come from a family of big eaters, African American and Caribbean. Everybody can cook, so we also have a lot of the comorbidities: diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, morbid obesity, and cancer. Now it's known that type 3 diabetes is an extension of type 2, and type 3 now is dementia. The information is there. So I wonder if we're really discerning. And I'm just very clear from where I sit that we, knowingly and unknowingly, we follow, we're triggered easily, and we are conditioned. And it's no joke. Just try to break a lot of conditioning. Try to stop, make the effort to stop relating in a way that is toxic or not healthy, right? Just cut it off. Just cut it off. So you can go to the kitchen right now and toss everything that you feel is not in alignment with what you need your body to be able to, your organs and your colon and your skin to do for you. Can you go in the kitchen right now and toss it all in the garbage, put some water on it? Can you do that? Right? Conditioning is a mammal jam. Or does the mind start going to rationalization and justification for holding on to things that we have identified, that part of our divine innate intelligence has identified is not in alignment with what we want to experience? So there is a reason for it. Without making ourselves bad or wrong, we are still responsible and accountable for everything that we are allowing. Some things are out of our control. Yet, what are we allowing? We talk about people mistreating us, yet we open up and put ourselves in harm's way quite often. That is fascinating that we do that as a species. So just wanted to come in and chat. Let me know, what are your thoughts about taking certain risks with our hair? Is it worth it to potentially lose your eyebrows, lose your eyelashes, and then out of the fear of criticism or not fitting with the group, then we resort to tattoo, not making these things bad or wrong, because I can't tell, I don't tell grown folks what to do, but then to tattoo these very harsh eyebrows on, it's like tick, 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 until there's nothing there. Now we don't have nothing. Now, and if we're still feeling insecure, it's like sometimes it's just never enough. It's never enough. So I'm saying, nah, to the nizar. We deserve to feel comfortable in our own hair and skin throughout the different stages of life, from child to maiden, to mother to crone. What are we running away from? Prosthetic, silicone, or not? All of it is going to drop. It's just part of the cycle of life, yet not being able to accept that was great. I'm not talking about not grooming yourself, or I don't know, maybe in the 90s, maybe something. But yesterday, yes, in the workout yesterday, it just came to me. It's something about the early morning that is so self-destructive. I was thinking, right, if I had put in an inorganic substance inside of my skin, right? So you have all nerve endings. There's nociceptors and mechanoreceptors in the skin, right? Right? The mechanoreceptors allow you to distinguish whether you're walking on dirt, sand, oil. So it sends a message to the brain so we can adjust mechanically, right? We have no steel structures that perceive pain. So all this communication going on between the brain and the nerve endings in the spine. So if I cut, go into anesthesia, cut my skin open around my buttock, and I insert whatever the substance is. Does that mean when I sit down, now have I damaged my nerve endings? Am I able to sense my glutes? Now, as someone that's been a trainer for many years and in the athletic field, I know that your glutes are extremely powerful. If your glutes are atrophied and they're not working, but if you talk about pain now, not just aesthetic, you are going to likely have a lot of back pain, because if your glutes are not working, then your back and your lower back in particular is picking up the slack for the muscles that aren't working, right? And pain is no joke. Back pain is no joke. You're going to get some kind of wear and tear. So the goal is to not be a permanent drug addict on whatever these different pain medications are. Does anybody ever consider the trajectory of our lives when we end up as just being on a bunch of expensive pain medications? I don't think we're thinking long term. It doesn't appear that we are thinking long term, because if we were, then it would stand to reason that would be much more protective of our reproductive organs, of the delicate brain, the function of the brain, right? You don't want to, ideally, you want to ward off dementia and ward off pain, right, by taking care of ourselves. So I think that it can be observed that there is a massive critical disconnect between all the intellect that we and all the information that's readily, widely available, what we know to do, and actually what we enact. There's a massive disconnect. Let me know what y'all think. I don't have the only perspective. There's a massive disconnect. In particular, what we do have access to is what we putting ourselves in harm's way. But that is a mindset. That is a mindset. So in any event, we do a lot of mindset work in addition to the physical movement practice, and they work together. On Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there's coaching, whole living foods and fitness. That's privately, so that's group coaching. Feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in that. Flower Fit. There's so many things that are coming down the pipeline. I'm one person, and I'm very wary of random energy on the internet. There's a lot coming. With Esteem coaching, so I don't know how long some of you have been around, but I used to do a 4 a.m. Contemplation and relaxation session on this channel. They might be some of the older videos, unless I made them private, but I think they're still stuck on the phone. I used to go live on here. Then I stopped because there was a lot of trolling energy. I wasn't used to that, and that's not my cup of tea. So I use a private platform, and I like to be able to screen who I'm interacting with, because you don't know each other on the internet, and healthy boundaries rock. It is very, very important to implement healthy boundaries. More so than just for the other people, we implement the healthy boundaries for ourselves. So we're putting the boundary on ourselves first for what we allow and not allow, more so than thinking what you're going to get somebody else to do, because we can't control other people. They can't do that. Aging is a fear, very true. It's a primal fear. It's not worth it, especially when one has to continue to keep up with the demands of our immediate society. It's mentally debilitating. It's mentally, if you ever consider the things that are triggering subconsciously emotional and mental instability, look around. Do you not feel uneasy? There's none of this, the way you're observing things doesn't make you unsettled. It would appear that we're unsettled based on the amount of things that we're having to do to alter ourselves, and still not enough. And I just think there will be nothing more heartbreaking than to do all this work to yourself and still feel like you don't have it. Feel disappointed and sad, and then like I really damaged myself with something I can't take back. Now I've done something that's irreversible, and that's one of my main concerns in me sharing and having this conversation. I can think of numerous people, folks that paid top dollar, and were very dissatisfied with the alterations. So what then does that do for your esteem when you can't take it back? Now what? If you permanently altered yourself and the trend has passed, and Miss So-and-so Dashian has taken the prosthetic out of her group, and she may be getting complimentary work done so that she can advertise the services of different doctors, and now you're stuck with something, and now your esteem and your mental emotional stability is compromised even more. So some discernment, I know for me, is necessary. There's a conflict of interest with many folks looking to sell products to me. So the only one with a vested interest in the personalized prescription for my thriving, my mental and emotional stability is me. Is me. I'm the main one with a vested interest in what it takes for me to be mentally and emotionally stable so that I don't have this distraction and so that I can thrive. I can really be fully expressed in my body and have all the experience I'd like to have while I have a human suit, because I will not have it always. And so I'd rather not, things will happen. I'd rather not spend my time in my human suit worried about if my kinky hair is starting to kink up. It's natural. I'm embracing it. It's fun. It's fun. Or I can't get wet because of my makeup, or I can't get somebody a hug because I'm leaving a chocolate imprint, on their face, or I can't run, jump, move, kick. So those leverage lifestyle practices, they give you back so much. I tell you, we're missing out. We're missing out. People are waiting for perfection. Some folks are waiting to get fit before they go to the gym or work out. That makes no sense. I invite you to call BS and the excuses. Because then you're valuing excuses from your life. All right. Been on here far too long. I'm about to jump off. I already lost my eyebrows and lashes from thyroid issues. So we already have, and thank you for sharing that, Carolyn. We have enough to contend with the amount of toxins in the environment, glyphosate, if I'm saying I have a list, glyphosate, that's been found in all the breakfast cereals and granola. It's a dangerous chemical. The constant oil spills and global warming, the toxins in the food. So if this stuff is coming into the body and we're ingesting it and is compromising our immune system, homie's super simple. That's why shout out to Grandma Lou for her simple common sense. If I already have all of this stuff to contend with, then folks wanting to inject certain things to me for whatever their experiment, why would I want to put really harmful things that have not been tested long term into my body? That if it doesn't belong there, my body's going to have an inflammatory response. Ring the alarm because this doesn't belong in here, whether it's food or whatever. Call me super simple. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Adipose tissue, there's a certain amount that we have. It's a very small amount that's essential. Most of us are not that lean. The average person is not that lean. We have to be concerned about adipose tissue. So if folks are trying to gain weight, I'm saying this as somebody that's been a fitness competitor and worked in fitness for years, trying to gain weight by doing a dirty bulk, putting on unhealthy weight, that's not muscle weight. But anyway, we discuss all that in coaching to make the distinctions between healthy weight, because there are some folks that would like to put on weight, but a healthy weight. There are a lot of distinctions that we're not making due to so much information overload, and not being able to discern and make difference of the information, as well as put it into a context for our bodies and where we are and what our goals are and what our lifestyle looks like in a way that is sustainable. Okay. So yeah, we got stuff we have already issues to contend with. We might have issues from passed down to us by parents. Though not everything in our genes has to be expressed if we change the environment by eating substances that are real food that the immune system in the cells can recognize. That's not a diet. That's not a diet. Eating appropriate portions for the fuel that we need, it can be demonstrated based on our performance and if we have too much additional adipose tissue. That's not a diet. It's not. Let me jump out of here. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow BODYCULINARY on TikTok, Instagram, watching my little bit on Facebook. I've done a little two classes here. There are food preparation, whole living foods cooking classes, but they're uncooking, so there's no cooking with the stove, right? It's unprocessed food. If there's any processing, you'll be doing it. But for the most part, we want your living water in the food. At least that's how it's thinks over here. So whatever you call yourself is your beeswax. So if you're looking for another level of results, that's what we're up to. Creating beautiful food, delicious food that is sustainable to work with any spending plan that is very, very creative. So there will be some classes that are coming up. If you don't have a copy already, I invite you to go right on over to the website and download Whole Living Foods in the Hood. There's menus to fit your budget, so you can see shopping lists and ideas of what do I do. I'll give you some ideas on what I would do with all that produce. There are pictures of what I've been packing in for my family for our meals. Some tips if you have a family or if you live your life a lot of times on the road. And also, very importantly, mindset, why I'm so clear. As someone that was a former junk food junkie, that I'm still amazed I don't eat or crave any of that stuff, none of it, zero. So your palate can change. So the mindset is key. So I give you some insight as to how someone that was really addicted to potato chips, every candy bar, oops, it was just bad, to food in general, and obesity was waiting for me, and I have half of the thyroid. How is it, I'm not tempted by that stuff. So there's Whole Living Foods in the Hood with menus to fit your budget. There's some cooking classes coming up. There is a guided raw vegan cake workshop, passion cakes that is on the website, that class. Healthy eating for men is also available, and it's also through coaching. So if you're really interested in transforming your body composition from home, reach out to me. There's going to be an intense program. If you follow me on all social media, from time to time, I'll put a portion of the workout on one of the social medias. I will rotate it on different platforms. So if you want to do the full workout, all you need is enough space for an exercise mat. You can dramatically alter your body composition. So not just weight, right? Because you want to distinguish fatty tissue from water retention, which a lot of us have a lot of water retention, and lean mass. And that lean mass is important. If you want your body to look youthful, that's lean mass. It's lean mass. So I'm about to jump off of here. Study all from warm, positive vibrations. Pick up the book online. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Feel free to replay this as you're cutting up vegetables or as you are decluttering some piles, because we got things to do. Been busy on purpose to help you.